Hey, I'm your host, TheDoctorDanko, come on in. You've been missing out, so let's begin. Pumpkin_crumb is your host here too. When you hear the beat, you know what to do. Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Hey. Good evening and welcome to Why Did Not You Warn Me? I'm your host, Matthew, the Dr. Danko.
I'm Hillary Crumb, the co-host.
Yes, as always, my lovely Crumb.
Lady co-host.
Yes, the lady co-host. Cheddar's made up.
Sounded like you said cheddar's made up.
It is. Everything's made up when you think about it.
What?
I'm blowing your tiny little mind right now.
My brain is huge.
No. Not you specifically, but like the human brain.
I can't believe you just called me stupid in front of your mother.
And it's not technically in front of her. Also, I didn't call you stupid. I said the size of your brain is small. It doesn't mean that it's stupid.
Well, this is the end of our relationship. You heard it here first.
But not the end of our podcast. So doing this will just be awkward.
Our amazing chemistry, gone.
Gone instantly.
Shot to hell.
All right.
So anyway.
We're back.
It's been a week.
Yeah, since our last episode. Yeah. But our last episode was like not 3 weeks late. It was 2.5. It was pretty close.
It was not great.
Right, but we were going all over the place and work was just awfully daunting.
Awful.
Yeah.
And like full disclosure, I was ready to not do it tonight because I keep waking up at like 5:45 for no reason.
Yeah, and like great. I have been, weirdly enough, I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and just lay in bed like, why am I even awake? Trying to tell myself I have so much time before my alarm's going to go off. Then I'm usually able to go back to sleep. But I'll wake up like 5 o'clock, and 6:30, and 7:30. And it'll just keep happening.
I'm rubbing off on you.
You are.
So sorry, because that's what I do.
Particularly last night, I just kept tossing and turning. I could not fall asleep. So I am tired as well.
So this might be a bit of a shit show.
It might be, but I'm hoping the content, at least for myself later on, will keep us going.
Great.
But we'll get to that when the time comes.
Right. I'm trying to remember what even happened in my/our lives this past week. It's fine.
I'll try to guide us, but...
I think I have... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. This is your show, too.
It is. Thank you.
This isn't the Matthew Danko podcast.
Don't call it that.
You know, just as a side story, as I have.
Sure.
I was recently on Bobby and Adam's podcast, the GTAS podcast, as a guest star because Adam was out of town. And we were talking about our show. And Bobby said that one of his favorite things is when I say the Matthew Danko podcast, and you're right there to be like, don't call it that.
Yeah, that's cute. Bobby's also appalled that I don't like Batman, and you're dating me anyway.
He's not appalled. He just finds it absolutely ridiculous for somebody like me who loves Batman to be dating somebody that's vehemently opposed to Batman.
My friends don't get it either, because I am like religiously opposed to Batman. It's not a casual dislike.
I understand, but like your reasons for not liking Batman are invalid.
I know that you and your friends think. You know what? We're not getting into this right now, but suffice it to say, I'm going to have t-shirts made that enumerate my reasons. It's going to be fine.
You're going to need a lot of fabric.
I have a t-shirt concept idea. Can I share
Really?
it with you?
Yes.
I want to get like a black Batman t-shirt with the logo in yellow on the front.
Right.
And draw the like red circle around it with the line through. Yeah. On the back, have the quote from John Green, "Crime is not actually caused by evil." Or no, it was going to be, "Gotham never gets better for long. Crime is not actually caused by evil," is the full quote.
Okay. But
I just like it.
You know why Gotham doesn't get better for long?
Doing
is
this.
to sell comic books.
Gotham doesn't get better for long because of the systemic disenfranchisement.
That has nothing to do with Batman.
No, it has to do with Gotham.
Right.
None of it has anything to do with Batman.
Exactly.
He thinks that it does.
No, he doesn't think
and
that.
He's a garbage
he
hero.
Does not.
He has no power.
First of all, that makes him better. That he has no powers. Superman, the man who has all the powers, is fundamentally the least interesting character.
I think Superman's garbage too. I'm not going to fight you on that.
I'm just saying. Batman is a man that can fight amongst the
Batman
gods.
Batman is a garbage hero.
He's not a garbage hero. You're a garbage person.
Good thing we're not dating anymore.
I know. It makes this all the more easier.
That you broke up with me earlier in the episode. So you're a garbage person who likes garbage superheroes anyway.
Yes, you do. I'm glad you're self-reflecting.
You like all the superheroes that I like, so it doesn't work like
but
that.
like, listen.
You
DC,
like everything.
I do. DC has its own problems with their cinematic universe, but their comic books are way good.
Way good.
Way good.
Wow.
And like, we don't have to get into it more.
We keep saying that.
Well, when you attack my favorite hero, and Bobby and I got into this on the podcast, like, not what's your favorite hero, but like, we knew mine was Batman, and he kept thinking about it. He's like Daredevil, and I guess Batman, and then he's like, it boils down to Batman's just the best, and he's like, you can tell Hillary that Batman is the best, and this is the definitive. Well,
you can tell Bobby to suck my dick.
I will not. You just told him for me.
You hear that, Bobby? Come at me.
The other thing is that, like, apart from the dislike you have for the character, is that...
It's more than dislike.
Fine, that's not what I'm saying. That's not even the point. I just said, aside from that, is that it doesn't stop me from liking the character.
And it doesn't have to.
Right, and it never will. So, like, Batman will always be the best in my eyes, but it's fine if you don't agree. That's why this can work.
Blind and wrong.
Listen, I'm not wrong.
This is how everything between us got started.
It's true. That was one of our first introductions to each other.
You hadn't spoken up to that point.
I know.
We were talking about superheroes, and I was like, as long as it's not fucking Batman. And you were like, excuse me.
Yes, I told this story on the GTAS podcast. I was like, we were all sitting backstage and like we're doing some bullshit work.
I think we were waiting for Moss.
I think that was the day we were putting up the psych, maybe. I think we were backstage in that particular spot.
Max a 3-person job, and there were like 5 or 6
and
of us.
I'm pretty sure it was either me or Orlando that was like, favorite superheroes. I think
it was Orlando.
Yeah, probably.
You weren't talking at that point.
No. And I typically don't. But this was a conversation I knew I could jump in on.
Right.
And I think he said The Flash.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, he hates the show The Flash.
Yeah, but he likes the hero.
I don't remember.
And then that's when you jumped in and was like, anything but Batman. And I was like, hold up.
Hold up.
But it's funny because it wasn't today at work, but a couple days ago, when we do our paperwork, like the customers, this is how they classified the customers back in the UK, but translating it to American culture has made it a little racist.
The monkey denomination.
Yes, because it's called Go Ape, and everyone's basically they're apes in the trees. So how they do it is adults are gorillas, 16 to 17-year-olds are orangutans, and 15 and under are baboons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, that's one of the facts they have of like monkeys in one of the stockades. So when we write on our papers, we write GOB, and I was like, "Oh, Job," which is a reference to Arrested Development. And
you're exhausted.
I know. And somebody was like, I know that from somewhere. And I was like, Arrested Development? And they're like, yeah, I couldn't figure out what that was. And then, like, I didn't know you watched that show. And then I got into the story that about...
I blew myself.
Yes, that we were painting something in RPT, and it was just a lot of blue, and I had not said anything at this point. I think this was my first sentence.
Right.
Before the superhero thing.
Batman was a conversation, but the I blew myself was just out of nowhere.
Because I had blue all over my hands. It was hilarious. Luckily, Orlando got it, but you didn't watch television, so you had no idea.
This kid who hadn't said a single thing is like, I blew myself.
Hey guys, I blew myself.
What the fuck?
It was hilarious.
Taking a quick moment since you brought up RPT. Any chance I get to shit on Busch Gardens, I'm gonna take it.
That's fine.
Their show this summer at RPT, which is their outdoor venue, which is shit, is a new production called Spark.
Yeah.
I think.
Spark,
Spark, not Sparkle, which is what I thought it was.
Sparkle.
It looks like it's just a fucking light show outside.
Yeah, it's basically like the stage. It has, normal theater seating. It almost looks like since Busch Gardens is owned by SeaWorld, like, in place of the stage, you could put like a tank there.
Like Shamu's tank or something. Yeah, that's like amphitheater-y.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So they've done their ice shows there outside.
And then they had a ridiculously expensive show called All for One. That was the summer production. Heard of, like, given all the money they put into that, alterations to the venue itself, not just like bringing stuff in.
Before, so when they brought in All for One, they built the set and everything, and then as they normally do, they tore the set down to put up Twas. Right. But then the second year, they decided that was a shit show putting that back in, so we're just going to leave it in there as a fixture. And then the next year, they're like, we're done with All for One. We're pulling
All for One.
So I can't even imagine. They must have left it there. But that's the thing with Busch Gardens is, like, when they pay for rights or a story or whatever, they try to get their money's worth out of it for multiple runs. That's why their sets look so shitty, because they leave them in trailers. And
not climate controlled, not protected. Like, we were looking at the set for Spark, this new garbage, and it's like a bunch of neon panels that look great now. Yeah. But as I mentioned, it's outside in Virginia. So it's going to rain, there's going to be mud, and then they're going to store it in these fucking trailers, and there's going to be mold, and it's going to look disgusting. Yeah. So good luck, I hope it fails.
With all those vibrant colors, I wasn't even thinking that. Like, just as a concept, the sets normally don't last long in those things, that they have to get repainted anyways.
Right, I mean, the Scrooge stuff, which is indoor. Yeah. Scrooge has been going for this will be its 5th year?
Probably, yeah.
And the sets look like shit. We do, like, touch-ups. Did touch-ups. Never again. Yeah. Who knows what they'll do with it this year, hopefully.
And whatever Sori's doing, like, the paint... What even was her title?
Paints,
just the...
I think she's the scenic
paint designer or something.
Like
theming. That's it. They're short-staffed so far.
She sent a text to a bunch of people, but I was included on that, inviting me to apply for that job.
So... I imagine they won't get a lot of applicants, so they'll be short-handed, and then Sori will not be able to jump around as much, so it'll be left up to the tech captains in venue, and you know how well that goes. So
not historically.
It does not.
So basically, I hope Christmas doesn't happen at Busch Gardens, and ideally everything catches on fire.
It'll happen. I think the contractors will not. I don't even know what's up with that.
I don't either.
But
Oak Island is great.
Yeah.
An excellent contracting company, and we've worked with some very wonderful people who were helping to build Christmas at Busch. Busch itself is a mess. We have, I think there's still people that we know and like that work there. Not everyone jumped ship, but it's pretty close. They are hemorrhaging good people. Basically, if you work in theater or anywhere, in any field, don't work at Busch Gardens Williamsburg.
Yeah.
Probably just don't work for SeaWorld, but I can't really speak for
the other parks. I mean, I know there were people that went to the Florida one.
Yeah, I think we had friends who enjoyed.
Like Orlando particularly. He's in San Antonio. But, I mean, so like, once you sign up to work for a Busch Gardens SeaWorld thing, you're pretty much locked in for life. Like, you can always be welcome back if you're good.
Or even
if you're not.
If you have a pulse. If you haven't failed a drug test.
Yeah, even if you've worked like operations on rides, you can jump into the theater world.
Into rigging
specifically,
pieces.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah. Anyway.
But let's move away from this.
That was a little tangent. Yeah. Didn't need to happen, but
it's okay.
Clearly I'm still bitter.
No, I get it. I am too. So what have you been reading or listening to? I don't know. So
I'm still reading the Montessori book. Yeah. Not much new to say about that. I'm also rereading a book that I read when I was younger called Bad Girl Creek. The only thing I really have to say about it is that I think it's going to go in my discard pile of books.
That pile right in front of us?
The pile right in front of us, yeah. It's not large, but any slimming down of my collection that I can do.
Yeah, there are
Okay, you count and I'll talk about the book. The book is like
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books, but out of 200 some.
Yeah, I'm not done counting.
Yeah.
The current total is 242, but I have not counted all of them. There's at least one room that still needs to be cataloged. Plus the couple that are in my
love
bedroom.
that. You're a reader.
I am a reader and a hoarder, apparently. So this book is like ultra conservative, but it's trying to be kind of subtle about it. Like it's these. Is your eye falling out of your face?
Yes, it is. Just keep going. I'm listening. My ears still work.
Okay. So there's this woman, Phoebe, who inherits a flower farm from her elderly aunt who dies. And Phoebe decides she needs help to keep the farm running. So her and it's also just this big opulent like ranch style house. So her compromise, instead of hiring people, is she selects 3 other women to be like boarders, with the compromise that they'll have very low rent, but and like these women are all in like abusive relationships and still think that they owe something to men. Like they're very not feminist women. One of them is characterized as so clearly a lesbian. She is a farrier. She shoes horses.
I think that's the term.
I think it's a farrier. Maybe.
I know equestrian.
That's someone who rides.
Yeah, no, I know.
She shoes horses, and she, like, says something about, I remember being in middle school, and I wasn't interested in boys, I just wanted to be out riding horses. And I'm like, oh, so she's gay. But then she's like, I had a dream that Denzel Washington was ravaging my body, and I'm like, what? What? And it's just full of stuff like that. I'm just confused, and they all go to church, and they're all religious, and God is very important in their lives. I'm like, this is not my thing. So Bad Girl Creek, you can give it a miss. I also said that I was going to talk about Riverdale when I finished it, which I finally did. There are 2 seasons. I am fully caught up.
Cool.
Oh man, what a ride.
So we've talked about Riverdale before.
A little bit.
We gave the synopsis of it. So for anyone listening that doesn't know, Riverdale is based on the Archie comics of the 50s and forward.
Pull your
eyelid. My eyeball out of my head.
Pinch your eyelid.
Yeah.
And pull it out, and then roll your eye around. He's like rubbing his eyes.
I'm not
dying.
rubbing it. I'm trying to like get it to flush itself out. It's just hurting.
I thought there was something stuck in it.
I mean, there might be, but maybe it's
help?
the wind. A little bit. Good. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Okay.
So it's based on the Archie comics.
Archie characters.
Okay, yes. Let's preface this. It's based on the characters, like in a little bit in style and in name, but the show is not only it's on the CW, so it's very CWE.
Right.
They're all beautiful people, and it's an updated version. It takes place more in present day.
Yeah, they all have cell phones,
but they have like
everything.
Retro shit.
Yeah, like there's still the like retro style diner where they hang out. They have old cars.
Yeah.
It's very weird stylistically.
And so I have a few Archie comics. I don't even know why, but something drew me to the books. And I think it was an episode of Comic Book Men that they said, like, there was a crossover in Archie comics where he meets the Punisher, which I just thought was super weird and interesting. And then I went back and they started talking about, like, Archie comics wouldn't work today because they're all old-fashioned and, like, kids have cell phones and shit like that. And then, a couple months later, Riverdale came out, and it literally is just the characters' names and a little bit in aesthetics, but you can describe the CW show that is Riverdale.
It's so over the top. And we were talking about this because you would get home from work and find me just riveted to this train wreck. And, right, riveted to Riverdale.
Yeah.
And you would sit down and just be like, what the fuck is happening? So we were sort of wondering whether this is a show that's self-aware, like that it knows how ridiculous it is and it's doing it on purpose. And I go back and forth constantly.
It's so hard to tell. And like, I haven't sat down and watched a full episode, I don't think. I've sort of popped in and out as you have watched it.
Right.
But the way it's acted and, you know, the actual look of the show, everything about it is saying this is a dramatic, like,
this is serious,
CW.
dramatic.
Yeah, like Arrow or some shit.
Right.
But then it's...
But then they say things.
They say things, or like the plot itself is just so ridiculous
it's like
that it's...
Glee meets Teen Wolf.
Yes,
like...
that's very much... Because when I walked in the first time, I was like, is she watching Teen Wolf? Because I did not recognize any of the characters, and like the style of it was very like Scream the TV series, which I knew you weren't watching.
Right.
You're like, this is Riverdale. There are 10 more minutes. Leave me alone.
Don't judge me.
I wasn't. I was just like, because it's a show I've always been curious about because I've seen shit, and like Dylan, is he on the show or is it Cole Sprouse?
Oh, Cole.
Cole.
Like,
yeah.
what are you talking about? Yeah, he's Jughead.
Yeah, I've seen Tumblr posts about him where it's like, I'm weird. I wear this hat. I'm weird or something like that.
He's so obsessed with how weird he is.
Yeah,
like I'm not wired to be normal.
See this hat?
Okay, honey.
Yeah.
It's a lot. He's very extra. All of them are very extra.
Yeah, very much so.
So the plot of the first season is this. So Cheryl and Jason Blossom are out on Sweetwater River, and these Boy Scouts come several hours later and find Cheryl sitting alone on the riverbank in tears, swearing that Jason fell out of the boat and drowned.
Yeah.
They can't find his body for a while.
Yeah.
And then these two gay guys, one of whom is the sheriff's son, one of whom is named Moose, are making out in the woods by the riverbank, and the body washes up. So the first season is about trying to solve that murder.
Yeah, it's like a murder mystery sort of thing.
Right, and it's real creepy, and Cole Sprouse does these very dramatic voiceovers.
Yeah.
And like, season 1 was fantastic. I was hooked the whole time. It's so ridiculous.
Even when
Cheryl
I was
Blossom
popping in and
is
out.
my style icon.
Yeah.
Like,
it's very gripping.
it's insane. It is just absolutely indescribably insane. But it's following, solving this mystery.
Yeah.
And then at the end of season 1, they do. So the question with stuff like that is, now that they have solved this key issue, where the fuck are they gonna go?
Right.
Are they gonna create some other mystery? Which of course is what they do. And then I wanted to tell you this, actually. Season 2 feels a lot more like a comic book.
Okay.
Because Archie forms this group. Well, the villain is the Black Hood, and he shoots Archie's dad non-fatally.
Okay.
Spoilers. So Archie forms this group called the Red Circle to take on the Black Hood, and it sounds very comic
much
book.
Yeah. And like, this is coming from like a 50s style comic book,
right,
where the biggest problem that Archie had was, who am I going to date, Betty or Veronica?
Which gets resolved within like the first 30 seconds, but then they go back to it a lot.
Yeah.
But then Betty starts dating Jughead.
Yeah, and that was like a constant thing in the books. Like, he'd get into trouble with his school principal or whatever, but like constantly it was like, well, Betty wants to take me out on a date. Veronica also wants to take me out on a date. What do I do?
Oh, shucks.
Yeah, in
Better
that
get a
1950s
milkshake.
style shit. And this has like gone so off the rails.
It's murder and intrigue.
Yeah.
Season 2 is everywhere, though. Because like, they solve one mystery and then another one starts, and then we go back to the first. And like, I was texting my best friend Devin, who recommended this show, and I was like, Devin, there's so much happening. And she's like, there really is. They do a musical episode. They do Heathers. No, not Heathers. Carrie.
Carrie.
They do Carrie the musical.
Yeah. Heathers would probably work.
Heathers would have been perfect. But Carrie, like, and they do so many songs from the soundtrack. Like, how How did they just pay for the entire score?
Yeah, when you described that to me, they must have to get like how long are the episodes? Like an hour long?
45 minutes.
45 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and they sang like at least 6 songs, maybe more.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, I was gonna say something else. There was the musical episode. There was... I totally forget what I was gonna say. But there's like gang warfare.
Yeah,
like,
one of the episodes I jumped into, there's like, not the scorpions.
The serpents.
The serpents, that's it.
Yeah.
Close enough. They're like this gang that lives in town, and there was this whole contracting dispute over land, and then...
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I remembered what I was going to say. There's an episode where everyone is making plans to go see this gay rom-com and required viewing in Riverdale, and it's Love, Simon. And they show, like, a substantial clip of one of the important parts of that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Speaking of Love, Simon, side note, Bobby went to see it, and he loved it. He said,
did.
like...
Presumably he has a soul.
Well, he does. But it's like, he said, like, yeah, that's one movie, like, we all liked, and he could say that, and it was cool.
Really good.
It was good. He also asked, like, how much do you think Simon spent on the Ferris wheel? How many times he had to go around?
Right.
And he was also suggesting, like, what if Blue just didn't show up? Like, how would that be?
I think I've thought about that. I think Simon would have been fine. I think he had like come to terms with himself and who he was, or he was at the point where if he had Blue to add to his life, it would have been amazing. But if he didn't, he would have been fine.
Yeah, eventually. It would have sucked with how many people showed up to watch it happen.
Yeah, that would have been unfortunately public. But anyway.
All right.
Riverdale's insane. Watch it if you need gripping entertainment.
I hope they do like a what if episode. Like in the comics they did a series where, I don't think it was a series, it might have been a one shot of like if Archie died, and it got real dark and depressing. But that's the type of show where like
quo on
Archie could die at the beginning of the episode, and then they go and then I don't know why they would do it, just because, but like
why did they do Carrie?
Yeah, I don't know. There's also the Afterlife with Archie, which is like zombie Riverdale, which is cool. I don't know. They took it to weird places, and I didn't know that. I want to also say Archie either met or became RoboCop in a series. Like, the Archie books are so weird, and they have their own albums, like the characters. When I was working at the Exchange, I found the Archies, which is like a band, and it had them all on the cover, and I was like, this is cool. This is cool art for like this group, but it was marketed as the Archies themselves were the creators of the music. These cartoon characters were the characters of the band, which is why there's the crossover with Josie and the Pussycats.
Okay.
Like they did in the comics at some point, but...
Josie and the Pussycats, P.S., the characters, the group, magical. One of my favorite parts.
Yeah. That's cool, though.
Yeah.
Such a weird show of all the things they could pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's cool that it's not just another superhero comic book. Like, iZombie is also one of those, like, it's not really a superhero comic book, but it's a graphic novel they adapted. Yeah. But, like, it's literally just a place that exists and people that exist, and then they just
a canvas to draw on. Like,
so it's literally just the characters. It really doesn't dive into what the books were about, because they weren't that interesting. They sold, but, like, they were like Sunday funny comics.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Anyway. That's all I got on Riverdale.
Cool.
What have you been watching, reading, listening to this week?
So I've watched and listened to a whole bunch of shit, but I'm gonna save this portion for like to give us even more time to talk about the movies we've seen, since we saw a few movies this week. Incredibles 2 and Jurassic World.
We also watched 2 Harry Potter movies.
Yes. So we have a lot of things.
Okay.
Real quick, I'm just still watching Community. The writing's getting a little better, but some of the jokes are landing or not landing as well, because like Chevy Chase is on the show.
Right.
And he's like, the point is they're at community college, so they all fit into these different stereotypes. Chevy Chase's character is the old guy who is out of touch with all the young kids, but he's also from a time where like sexism and racism were like more prevalent. Yikes. And it's not always overt, but it definitely comes up to an uncomfortable point for me to like see him make some of the jokes he makes, and they all call him out on it on the show.
Okay.
But like the reason he had to leave the show was because he was sort of doing that off stage as well.
Oh no, Chevy Chase.
Yeah, so I mean that's fine, whatever. They ended up killing his character off in the show.
Good. They should do that to Hyde on that 70s show, retroactively.
Okay. So I'm watching that, but the story, like a lot of the dialogue and the Troy and Abed stuff is really hilarious and smart. So it's pretty cool to rewatch that because it's been a while since I've done that.
Wow.
And then I watched Tremors 6, A Cold Day in Hell, which for anyone who's unfamiliar with, which I'm guessing Hillary is unfamiliar with the Tremors series.
It's a good guess.
So Tremors it's basically this sci-fi / horror movie kind of.
Figured.
But it's about these giant like creatures that live under the surface, and particularly I want to say the first movie takes place in Utah because it came up when we were in Utah. Talk about Tremors a lot because we were just like out in this deserted field like at Bulldog. And we're like, yeah, the whole thing is like if you make noise on the ground, they can hear it. Okay. And so they'll come after you. And so the idea is to stay up as high as possible. And then they had so many sequels and whatnot. And this one went straight to video, which is fine. But Jamie Kennedy's in it, which drew me in. Yeah, and boy. The fifth one was pretty good because that's where Jamie Kennedy's introduced. But
that's where it really gains its stride.
It
Most
does.
Franchises
after the fifth
really
one.
taken off at the fifth one. I mean,
be surprised.
Dark Tower.
Yeah. But in the movie, they're called graboids. Is this
gross?
Yes. It's not as bad. So like the graboid, yes, they have a giant like beak-like mouth that they grab you with. But
really?
They can also evolve into what they refer to as ABs or ass blasters. Because they literally shoot fire out of their rectums.
Oh no!
Yeah, as the series
I was
kept
imagining
going
shooting fire up somebody else's rectum.
I mean,
blasting in the ass.
Blasting in the ass.
Right.
This is the ass
blasting
blaster.
Out of the ass.
Yes.
Sure.
Syntax.
Syntax.
And then there's a third species that it evolves into that can fly.
I wanted to guess something crude.
I don't remember what the third one's called because really, after you hit ass blasters,
where can you go?
But this takes place in like Canada or the Arctic. There is a scientist team that is working on a project, and they are drilling into the ground, and it causes a graboid to come after them. And they're not indigenous to that area, but these are like the first graboids that exist. And now that global warming's a thing, the ice caps are melting, and now they're like waking up essentially. So they have to get him and Jamie Kennedy, who's going to take after him after he stops being the graboid hunter. Like,
grunter.
Yes, to fight these things. And I stopped watching halfway through the movie. But only because...
But that was where it really
But that's where it really took off.
The first half of the fifth movie.
Listen, no, the fifth movie was great. I was able to watch...
This is the first half of the sixth movie.
This is the first half of the sixth movie.
Okay,
A Cold Day in Hell is what this one's called.
Okay. So what was the final straw for you?
It just... First of all, it was like 7 a.m. You had just left for work, and I was like, I need to watch something, and I was going through Netflix, and I'm like,
with Ass Blasters.
Ass Blaster 6.
First thing in the morning, I drink my coffee, I put on a little Ass Blaster.
No, it wasn't. 6. It's not called that, but don't call it that. But it's on my list, and it's one of those movies. The Asinine.
I was trying to come up with something better, but I'm tired.
But it was...
The hemorrhoids. Sorry.
Stop.
Go
ahead.
ahead.
The widening?
The widening.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The rectuming.
The rectuming. I like that. Ass Blaster 6. The rectuming. I want to see a poster for that.
Oh, I'll make you a poster for that.
It wasn't so much that the story was bad or anything. I mean, it's the sixth one. And
it doesn't get overtly transphobic till the end.
It was just, nothing was gripping me. I knew, which sounds funny, but like, it's kind of the same story. They
blasting.
go to an area that these things exist in, and it wasn't introducing any new ideas.
Oh.
I was really just watching it for Jamie Kennedy, and because it was on my list to watch. Because, like I said, it came straight to video, and those kind of movies, normally I'm on board with, like, I want one every year of, like, this ridiculous plot. Like, Sharknado also wasn't that kind of serious for me, because I don't give a shit about a tornado that takes sharks into the sky.
You should, Matt. It's a serious problem.
No, it's not.
Go see Meg.
I do want to see Meg.
I will not be seeing Meg.
I don't want to see it for full price.
I think it's ridiculous that it's called Meg, because Meg is a human name.
I'm pretty sure it's called The Meg.
Still,
or maybe it is called Meg.
It sounds
I don't
like it's
know.
about a woman.
It doesn't. It doesn't even come close to that. But it's Jason Statham, and a very great action star that gets to fight a giant shark, bigger than all the other sharks.
Do you know how I learned
before.
about a megalodon?
How have you learned about a megalodon?
I was playing, I think, Heads Up with a 5-year-old. And she was like, do you know what a megalodon is? And I was like, no, actually. Can you tell me?
Yeah.
She's like, it's this really big shark that lived when the dinosaurs lived. And she was so fucking excited about it. So I've always remembered.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just, we saw the trailer I'm guessing it wasn't in front of Incredibles 2.
I would assume not, although it might have been. Who knows?
Yeah.
That was not a children's movie.
Incredibles 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
to
that.
it. You have to finish talking about Past
I'm
Blaster 6.
I'm done with that.
The
It's just
thing.
like, it wasn't gripping me, and I would like to see how it ends, but there was not enough action to keep me going, because like that movie, it depends solely on action, and it's like a sci-fi original movie, which you don't really have a basis for, but I kind of point a lot of things out to you, like it's B or C quality sci-fi.
Well, yeah, like that hurricane movie.
Yeah, the hurricane heist.
Right.
That got a blockbuster release. Like,
yeah, and you were like, this looks like a sci-fi original movie.
the whole thing is that somebody's robbing a bank during a hurricane.
And
Like, that's the
literally
plot.
it.
So they're like, hurricane heist. That's the name of it.
So it's just Florida in July.
Basically, and there's a whole scene where, like, somebody's stuck at a place that needs rescued, and there's this, it's like a love story sort of thing.
Of course it is, because
and
that's all women are good
he gets
for.
into his, like, armored truck and gets her safe in the truck, but then there's, like, a hit of, like, the hurricane, and he's like, hold on, and he pulls this lever, and, like, the vehicle, like, hunkers down into the ground and grips onto the asphalt, and it's, like, not gonna go anywhere. It's one of those weather vehicles.
And then the ass blasters show up.
You know, that would make that movie better. But, like,
It would make every
how
movie better.
does that kind of movie get the traction to get that kind of, like,
Jason
worldwide
Statham.
release? Like, no, the Meg did. I don't know a person that was in the Hurricane Heist movie. This is why Tusk, which was at least original,
Christ.
should have had more of a release.
I know,
it still
babe.
got
It's an
along
injustice.
600 theater screens, and he was like, I don't want that. I just wanted, like, a
It's a
few
weird
select
walrus
theaters.
sex movie. I don't want to be
It's
known
not
for
walrus
this.
sex. Has nothing to... I can't
Dressed
get in.
like a walrus.
He gets sewn into a walrus costume.
I know.
It's a horror movie.
Honey, you've told me the plot. I've listened to the podcast. I'm not gonna watch the movie.
You don't have
because
to.
I don't want that in my brain.
Well, you should,
I
because
have
it's brilliant.
the images that I've conjured myself. Kevin Smith, by all accounts, has a fucked up imagination, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to live with that in my mind forever. We're gonna be getting married, and I'm supposed to be thinking about my husband and how much I love him. And all I'm gonna be thinking about is Jason Long sewn into a walrus body.
You know, now that you mention it, I'm going to get a little walrus
I'm
topper
done.
for our cake.
Done.
Anyways, so that's what I watched. I have also been listening to the Red Dwarf podcast called Smegheads. It's because that's a term
about the
from the
movie
show.
Meg.
No, Smeg is the name of it. Anyway,
Disgusting.
why is it disgusting?
Smegma.
You're disgusting. Smegheads is an insult in the future. Like, instead of saying
I
dickhead on the
understand what
BBC,
insult is, Matt.
do you? I don't think it's important to me that you know this. But nobody listens
We
to
thought
Red
this
Dwarf or
episode
watch
wasn't
it. I
gonna
know.
be good.
So you can just skip it. Skip this part of the podcast.
Nobody cares about Red Dwarf except Matt and his dad.
Yeah,
so.
it's a great show. Anyway, so we have been to the movies a lot recently.
Because there's a lot of good shit out right
Yeah.
now. Like, the past couple of months, nothing.
Yeah.
And then all at once.
Even though we did see a few movies last month. Or I did.
Oh, we saw Infinity War.
Yeah. And then I saw Solo and Deadpool 2.
We saw Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I did not see Solo.
No.
Zero interest.
Right. Why would you?
Right. Yeah, apparently Star Wars fans are like freaking out on both sides of the fence to the extreme about and they got like the spin-offs canceled.
Yeah, because the box office didn't do well. Because people boycotted it for some reason.
Children.
Yes, they are.
People are idiots, Leslie.
They're missing the point of this.
Right. Anyway, so we saw in theaters Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Is that what it's called?
Nice.
Dope. And Incredibles 2. And then in the privacy of our own home, we watched Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Right. Do you want to wait and do the Harry Potter movies all at once, or do you think it's better to do it piecemeal while we remember details?
I think piecemeal.
Okay.
I've also toyed with the idea of doing commentary tracks for the movies.
Okay.
Which I don't know.
Since we have 2 movies to discuss this week anyway, do you want to at least wait until we have 3 Prisoner of Azkaban under our belt as well, and then do Harry Potter?
Yeah, because I know we're gonna go see we might wait to see Ocean's 8.
It's up in the air. It depends on how we feel about our
Depends
lives.
on how we feel and money.
And the size of our paychecks. Yeah.
There's Ocean's 8.
We're probably gonna miss
Are You My
Ant-Man and the
Neighbor?
Wasp. Oh.
If we
Won't
get
You Be My
Won't You
Neighbor?
Be My Neighbor? The documentary on Will Rogers.
Mr.
Rogers.
You call him Mr.
Listen, his
Show
first name's not
some
Will.
respect.
Will Rogers is a character from a sci-fi thing.
Oh my god, I hate you.
I get my Rogers confused.
So Jurassic World.
No, let's start with Incredibles 2, because I have more to talk about with Jurassic World.
That's true. I can go take a bathroom break while you talk about Jurassic World.
No.
Sorry, love. So Incredibles 2.
Incredibles 2. So it's been long time since...
Long time.
Since Incredibles 1.
Exact unit of measurement.
Yes. It's been a while since I've seen Incredibles.
Yeah.
But when I first saw the Incredibles movie, I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want. And this was pre-Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So, like, superhero movies were happening, but
not
as frequently as they are, like,
there wasn't
every month.
Saturation.
Yeah. So it was like, this is awesome. This is a Pixar movie. It's about a family. They fight crime. And, like, it was a solid movie.
It was fun. It was funny. It was, strong female characters. Presence of characters of color. Not many, but I think one.
Edna, the woman that designs their suits.
Strong female characters.
Yeah.
She's not a person of color,
Isn't
though.
she?
I don't think so.
I thought she was Asian. I guess Edna Mode isn't... I'm going to look this up.
Okay.
Well,
all right, you find out about color representation. Could do better.
I'm pretty sure the villain was also a person of color, but...
No, the villain was the babysitter. BS.
Oh,
yeah.
Syndrome.
He was like a super
I was
fan.
thinking of the woman that works with Edna, I think.
It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
The first movie was good.
Jason Lee was the voice of Syndrome from...
I don't remember Syndrome at all.
Okay, he was the main villain, but yeah, he was a super fan that, like, it's like, heroes, like, meeting your heroes isn't
right.
good.
I thought that was Babysitter.
Yes, he shows up and is like, I'm the babysitter, so he can get the family hostage.
Right, so what's Syndrome?
Syndrome is the name of the... He has a big S on his chest. It's like it stands for sitter.
Oh.
Wow. Yeah, we have to go through the fucking plot of the Incredibles.
No, because it's not important. We're talking about Incredibles 2. The point is...
You need to set it up? No, that's okay.
No, we don't. Because it worked as a standalone.
It did. It really did. It was a great movie for the time that came... 2004 it also came out.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was a long-ass
long
time ago. But Incredibles 2 takes place, like, immediately after.
Right.
So it's 2004 the first one was released, and it's 2018, so that's...
Right.
14 years?
Yeah. I really wanted to say 12, but I knew that wasn't right. So it's been a fuck long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was such a solid movie, because, it's still the same setup of the, the two parents who have been supers their whole life, Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl.
Yeah.
And their 3 kids. Violet, Dash, and Jack, who is bursting onto the scene with the appearance of his superpowers.
Have you ever seen the Tumblr post that's like, I've been thinking about the Incredibles, and like Elastigirl has stretchy arms, and like Violet turns invisible like Ultraviolet, and then Jack does everything. He's a jack of all trades. And then somebody posts under it like, wait until I tell you what Dash is doing. Yeah, like... But I never put together the Ultraviolet thing.
No, I didn't either. I remember...
It's a little more subtle.
A post that I think I showed you about Dash when Elastigirl was pregnant and they were talking about baby names, and she said, I think we should name him Dash. Mr. Incredible's like, well, I mean, what if his superpower doesn't line up with that?
Yeah.
Like, hands down to her stomach where this kid is like running in the womb, and she's like, no, I'm pretty sure Dash will work.
Yeah. I forgot what I was doing halfway through this. It doesn't matter.
Great.
So Incredibles 2, the whole plot is that, superheroes are illegal. They've
right.
signed the Accords, whatever.
Right.
And
post-Sokovia.
They have sort of gotten in trouble for taking down the Underminer.
Or rather not.
Not capturing him, but destroying the city. And, like, superheroes are illegal, and we're going to take you to a new place. And then this, like, private company comes in and is like, we want to rebrand you. And, like, do PR that makes you guys look good because the world needs superheroes and all this other shit.
Like, red alert, red alert, red alert.
Yeah. And
because, we've seen movies before.
Right. And they're super enthusiastic. Like, the enthusiasm is what drew me to be like, no, nobody's that...
Well, and the fact that they grabbed them, like, in the dead of night.
Yeah. And they want Mr. Incredible and Frozone and Elastigirl in their, like, retro gear.
Right.
And they also want Elastigirl to be, like, the face of, like, the new superhero wave.
Right, so they're going to start with her, and basically she's going to wear a body cam and go out and fight crimes.
Exactly, so they can see, like, what happens behind the scenes.
Right, and Mr. Incredible's, like, jealous and sad.
Because he's Mr. Incredible. He's supposed to be, the Superman, for lack of a better term. He's, like, the face of superheroes.
Right. But he's being benched, basically. So he has to go home and take care of the kids while Elastigirl goes out and saves the universe, which is pretty dope.
It is. And he's fighting it a lot.
Yeah.
Like, he says, like, it's fine, I'm happy for you, but through gritted teeth, like, I don't want to do this. I'm the man. I should be fighting crime.
I don't think it's that.
It is a little bit. He's not, like... aggressive about it, but he is in the mindset because like this movie takes place in the 60s, which you sort of forget because there's like retro and new technology combined. They have like a hover monorail type thing they're introducing, and like they're flying fucking ship at the end, but it's not so much sexism, but he does sort of feel like the roles are, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner, like even to the point like if we can't be superheroes, I have to get a job and you have to stay home with the kids.
I think somebody said we have to get a job, or we have to get, I think they said one of us has to get jobs.
Yeah.
A job.
But English. He was like, I think he was pushing more for it.
No, because he said he had worked in insurance and he was miserable. He was fighting getting a job. I don't know. I didn't get the misogyny angle.
I did a little bit. It's not like overt. It's just like he's still in the mindset that like he has to be
I thought
Mr.
that he
Incredible.
just wanted to be out because, he loves being a superhero.
Maybe I was just reading it that way. Because like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway. I'd have to see it again.
Yeah, anyway. So he's home with Violet is a teenager. Dash is presumably in middle school, maybe, and Jack is a baby. And Elastigirl's out fighting crime and being amazing. And like I mentioned that it is very much not a children's movie, not because it's crude or anything, but just because the things they're discussing are very adult things.
First, it's very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of dialogue for what a kids movie should be.
Right.
So that drew me to the conclusion that this is the movie made for the people that saw Incredibles 1.
Yeah, the people that were kids for the first one.
Yeah, and now have grown up. And so, like, we're gearing it more towards them because they've been waiting longer. Like, it still plays to kids. Like, there's the whole scene with Jack and the raccoon that is hilarious.
That was so funny.
But there is a lot of dialogue, and I don't think a lot of it would hit a kid right.
No.
Like, I don't...
Ideally,
punch a kid in the face.
At all.
I just don't think they'd understand completely. Like, I can't even remember, but the woman that's in charge, like the sister, I can't even remember her name.
Can't either.
But she's talking to Elastigirl about something, and I can't even remember what the conversation is, but they're like, don't you think we should do this? And like,
yeah, I mean, they're talking about whether it's better to be like the face that's known or the person that actually is designing everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lengthy conversation.
Yeah.
It's not just like a quick something the adults could catch. It's like something they're really struggling with.
Exactly, and it's so weird. Like, and the cool thing about the original Incredibles movie was that Mr. Incredible himself, it's been a few years since he's donned his superhero outfit.
Right.
That he's having like a midlife crisis and wants to get back into his gear and fight crime again, but he's old now. And like, so the first one did deal with those like heavier topics, but the whole movie played more to kids, I think. And, then you have the actual kids in the movie, like, deal with, listening to their parents when they want to just help, and, like, dating. Violet is in like with this kid.
Right.
And, I mean, Jack is a baby, so...
Jack is hilarious.
He's one of the best characters.
He's so great. No dialogue.
Just
bouncing around, like, the bundle of, like, energy and excess power that he is. Yeah, It's so
amazing.
Funny.
And all the side characters, like Frozone was used just enough, and
Edna showed up.
I don't really want to give away like some spoilers, but there's a new villain called the Screen Slayer.
Yeah.
Which like hypnotizes people and takes over their mind to control them. But it's a really weird sequence that like even at the head of the movie they are like, be warned, there's flashing lights sequences in this movie, so if you are prone to seizures, like, you've been warned. And
it was like a lot.
It was
heavy,
excessive. Like, I'm so curious why they went with that.
Yeah, because I mean, neither of us is epileptic, but it was a headache inducing.
Yeah, and like it went on for a long time. Like, it was used a lot throughout the movie, but parts of it were extended. There's a whole scene where Elastigirl is fighting the Screen Slayer in a room that is just violently
so it's like the
vibrating,
whole screen, and it's not subtle.
Lights,
it's really, really intense.
Yeah, so
strobing.
Weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. But movie was really good. Totally worth it. Everyone that I have talked to about the fact that I went to go see it has said, oh, my husband or boyfriend or whatever would never go. He'd be too embarrassed because it's a kid's movie. And I'm like,
okay, first of all,
my adult
it's
boyfriend
not.
Went, like,
second of all, who fucking cares?
Right, get over it. Don't be weird to kids that are
there.
there.
Like,
just go see a
don't
fucking
be a
movie.
dick. Like, maybe don't go opening day for a kid's movie, but like Tuesday afternoon,
for example,
matinee. Like, fucking everyone should see it.
Yeah, it was
kids
great.
movies. Like, I was reading a thing about Mr. Rogers. It's like the kid never changes. Like, I think you just showed me this.
I showed it to you like an hour ago.
I knew it sounded familiar. That like there's always a kid inside our hearts, and that's one of the things I love about going to any movie in general. Is like I love the experience of the movie, and I get swept up in it. That I either cry or like find something to latch onto.
Speaking of you getting swept up in movies and crying, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
Perfect segue. In fact, this also ties into Incredibles 2. At the beginning, during the previews, they showed a Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdoms toy advert that was just amazing because it was very reminiscent of the Kenner commercials back in the day. It's kids playing with the dinosaurs and like the action figures, like dinosaurs are busting down things, and like it's their new toy line. Mattel has gotten the rights to these toys and have blown Hasbro's Jurassic World toys out of the water on all accounts. Like we have a 3-foot T-Rex. It's a load-bearing T-Rex in our apartment that Mattel created. Yeah. But then I showed you the Hasbro one, the Indominus Rex. There are screw holes in the one side of it, so you can't even like look at it and be like, that's a dinosaur. Whereas compared to the 3-foot one,
right,
like it's a quality toy that can hold smaller dinosaurs.
I'm still not fooled by the fact that it's not really a dinosaur. But
no?
I'm not like, oh my god, there's a dinosaur in my house every time I come into the living room.
Okay. Well, if I showed you some of the work people have done to repaint those things, they are spectacular.
Alright, so there's a real dinosaur. Potential.
Anyways. Potential. I'll never get to that stage. So we saw Jurassic World 2, Fallen Kingdom. Far better than the first Jurassic World, just right out of the gate. I found it so much more enjoyable, and I really liked Jurassic World when seeing it in theaters, but it doesn't have a lot of rewatchability, which you can't really find out until you rewatch a movie. Like, once you see it in theaters, granted, if you really like a movie and you want to see it again in theaters, go for it, but usually it hits you in a different way, either negatively or positively. Like, sometimes people rewatch a movie and they're like, I loved it more the second time because I was able to focus on this, and this.
Or like The Greatest Showman, you realize there's not really
a plot, but it's the music that gets you.
Right.
Exactly. So with Jurassic World, I saw it in theater, I think twice. First, it was sort of ruined for me because the person sitting next to me talked the whole way through it.
Not me.
Not you.
For the record.
Yeah. This was in 2015, I think.
Pre-Hillary.
Pre-Hillary. And then I saw it a second time, and I was able to focus on it more, but some of the parts started to drain on me. Like, plot-wise, there's not a whole lot of plot. It's very much like the park is open and now shit's going wrong because we created this dinosaur that's just too good. But there's a lot of nostalgia in Jurassic World because it's been so long since like the first Jurassic movie. And that's what it played on mostly, because there are these goggles that are from the first movie, and the climax of the movie is when they're trying to fight the Indominus Rex. They're like, what are we going to do? We need more teeth. And then Claire, who is played by Dallas Bryce Howard, the female in the second movie, who is like in charge of all the assets, doesn't really care about them as animals, is very much like, they're products because we make them in a lab. And then you have Owen, Chris Pratt, being like, they're animals, like they're living creatures. You feed these dinosaurs with this hook, that's all they know. They don't know how to socialize with other animals and things like that, so it creates problems. So she's like, I have an idea, and she runs down the line, or down like the corridor of the park, and is like, open paddock 9, and the guy in the control room's like, are you sure about that? And she's like, yes, just do it. And it's really a really cool scene. My favorite scene in that movie, apart from the very end.
I'm assuming that's why you're living it for us right now.
I know. I'm doing this on a podcast that nobody can see. So like the door opens up slowly, and she like has something in her hand, and she lights it. It's a road flare, very much a callback to the first movie. And then the door opens up, and then we hear doom, doom, and this T-Rex comes out of the gate, and she's like waving the flare around to get its attention to chase her to where this shit is going down. And it's amazing because it's the same T-Rex from the first movie. It has the war wounds on it, the same war wounds that are on that T-Rex.
On the real T-Rex.
On the real T-Rex in our living room. So that was really cool. And then like they fight, and it looks like all hope is lost. But then Blue comes out of nowhere and starts fighting too. And then
that sounds exactly like the conclusion.
I know.
To the one we just saw.
I know, but this one was way better in Jurassic World 2.
He's like signing.
I know. And then just a little funny moment is like, the Indominus Rex looks like it's won, and then the Mosasaur comes out and snatches it and brings it underwater and kills it.
So I've seen the first 2 Jurassic Park movies once each.
Yeah.
And like 94% of Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the time you watched it in that
hotel room in Colorado?
No, it was Colorado, which was fitting because that was the dinosaur.
Was the dinosaur hotel. But we were both exhausted.
Yeah.
So
I needed something to get my brain. No, I don't think. I think it was earlier than that.
We were too exhausted in Colorado.
It might have been on the way.
Later.
Oh, really?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We saw the movie in a hotel. I was half asleep, and I didn't even see all of it. So the nostalgia stuff is 300% lost on me.
I know.
So going into the second one, I was obviously looking at different things than you were. I was just looking at being able to watch this movie, which I was not sure going in.
No. I, too, wasn't even sure. Like, my expectations weren't high, but I like the concept. I like watching Chris Pratt, even if he plays the same character.
Always Andy Dwyer.
Yeah. With, like, overtones of Star-Lord.
Right, because Star-Lord is Andy Dwyer with the volume turned up a little bit.
Exactly. But I was very much like, I hope this doesn't do everything wrong. Like Jurassic World, if you go back and watch it, there are a lot of things that are problematic, both plot-wise and how they treat their characters. Like, I think I told you about this. There's like a babysitter that's watching the two main kids that they don't really have a huge role in the movie, whereas in the first Jurassic Park, they're like, one's a hacker and one's like just a kid that's interested in dinosaurs and everything like that. So the kids don't have a big role in Jurassic World. They're just sort of plot devices. And then their babysitter gets torn the fuck up by like these pterodactyls that get released on the park.
I heard about that because people were saying that it was like sort of violence towards women.
Yeah. And that's because like, even in the original Jurassic Park movies and in Jurassic World 2, a lot of the death scenes don't really happen on camera.
Right.
They're like hidden behind something where it's implied that somebody's being eaten, or I mean, the villain in Jurassic World 2 does get torn apart.
Right. I mean,
but
because
like,
it
rightfully
would be
so.
Horrifically violent.
Yeah.
Like,
and like they've shown things like that once or twice, not so much in Jurassic Park, but like as the series went on. But they're all still pretty subtle. But then in Jurassic World, she gets taken up into the air, dropped by one, caught by another, and then dropped into the water. And then another one picks her up and is taking her out, and then the mosasaur comes and eats both of them and brings them back down. And she's like tossed around like a rag doll. Yikes. It's very hard to watch. Right. On the first time, I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like terrifying, but that's pretty cool to see. But then when you take a step back and rewatch it, you're like, damn, that's fucked up.
Fucked up, yeah.
Because the main villain in that movie, who's like gonna weaponize the velociraptors, gets his hand bit, but then dies off screen. Like, we don't even see his body struggling or anything. We just hear sounds of like eating. And it's like, how are you gonna do that to the main bad guy versus this woman that didn't have barely any speaking lines and was not a big part of the movie. Well, like on screen. Well, that's my point. Right. But in Jurassic World 2, not only so the plot itself is the island's going to explode because one of the volcanoes are active. Right. This company hires Owen and Claire to come and rescue the dinosaurs to take them to a sanctuary. And and the company is owned by the co-founder of Jurassic Park, who worked with John Hammond on the original Jurassic Park, but they had a falling out or something happened. Okay. I'm not 100% clear on what. Actually, no, I do, because that ties into the plot, actually. Oh. But we still get that white-bearded old guy with a cane that has a little mosquito in the amber. Right. Yeah, so we get that. The Walt Disney of Jurassic Park, if you will. Sure. And they get to the island. He tracks down Blue because that's who they're after. And Blue doesn't really recognize Owen. Like, eventually he does, but then this team, which presumably I don't think their company gets a name, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to call them InGen, because that's the name of the company that has done this in every other movie. And Dr. Wu, BD Wong, is working with InGen to create these new dinosaurs or whatever. So I'm going to call them InGen. I don't even know if that's accurate. So they're like, we're taking the dinosaurs and this isn't actually happening. They're not going to a sanctuary. We're going to be dicks about this and sell off these. They only needed
Claire and Owen because they needed Owen to get Blue. Yeah. And they needed Claire's handprint to get into the computer or whatever.
Exactly. So that's the whole movie, is them trying to stop this from happening and figure out what's going on.
Very little of it actually takes place on the island. Yeah. We get the dramatic leaving the island as it is engulfed in volcanic ash.
There's a whole scene where shit's going wrong. They've been double-crossed, and now they're trying to get off the island while this volcano is exploding. And they're making their way down this like giant grassy hill, and all these dinosaurs are coming out. Just
fleeing in terror from the
very reminiscent of the first movie. There's a Gallimimus is the dinosaur. It looks like an emu or an ostrich.
You're so cool.
They are running in a herd away from a T-Rex, and the main characters are running and hide what looks like the same log that Owen and the rest of them hide behind, but I doubt it.
Right.
And then the stampede is just like almost pushing them out of the way to like run away from this volcano. And then they come to a cliff, and it's real dramatic and over the top. While they go over the cliff. Over the top. And then they make it to land, and they see like the boats are pulling away.
Bad guy boats.
Yeah, like fuck these guys. And they make it to the boat, and then everyone on the boat is just looking at the island as the boat's pulling away, and there's clouds of smoke. And for some fucked up reason, whoever's idea it was...
He's getting emotional just talking about this.
It was a lot.
It was a lot.
So, my favorite dinosaur is what I like to call, but not actually is the name. I call it the Bronchosaurus, because that's what I called it as a child.
The Brachiosaurus.
The Brachiosaurus. What we see in the first Jurassic Park, when Dr. Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler have been taken on these jeeps, they pull up into this field, and Dr. Grant stands up out of the jeep and pulls up his glasses and is like, what am I looking at? And there's a herd of, well, there's actually just one Brachiosaurus in the field eating. And he's like,
what the shit?
What the hell is happening? And he gets out, and like the Brachiosaurus like is moving, and he like turns Ellie's head to be like, you're focusing on the wrong thing right now. And then it's like, we have dinosaurs. And then he's like waiting there. The Brachiosaurus like does his, I don't know what to say. He like not gallops, but he like lifts up his two front legs and then smashes them down and then shakes the ground, and you see it. This is this tremendous moment. The Jurassic Park theme song is playing, and then he has to sit down, and then he like looks over, and there's just a herd of them coming out of the water. Like, they do travel in herds. And it's just like a very tremendous moment. And then in Jurassic World 2, they decide these motherfuckers take that exact same shot of the Brachiosaurus moving on its two front legs, like in a help me sort of stance this time, as smoke is clouding around him and there's flashes of like yellow and red behind him because the island is going down.
And we are on this goddamn Brachiosaurus dying for so long.
It was like 10 minutes of my life.
I kept looking over at Matt because I knew that he had to be crying and just gutted that the Bronchosaurus is just like real time dying before our eyes.
And it's making like...
It's so like this, much.
And it's like, why are you doing this to us?
Right.
And it's sort of like... So when I talked to Bobby before filming that podcast, he had just seen Jurassic World, and he's like, you know, they made me cry over a dinosaur, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but like, it's like, it was intense. And at that moment, I knew that that's what he was talking about.
It had to be.
But like, they do hold on to it for a very long time.
Like, unnecessarily
And
long.
I think, like, so the whole island is going down. Isla Nublar is the name of the island. And we've been to this island a lot, from Jurassic Park to Jurassic World 1 and 2 now, that it was going under, and that's like it. Like, and by how the movie ends, I don't think we're ever going back to the island.
No, there's no
especially
reason to.
With the new name. It's not Jurassic Park, it's Jurassic World. So... apart from all the little shit that I would love to get into, but I'd really like to talk about the meatier part of the plot, being its ending.
Okay.
Like, I'd love to get into Maisie as a character.
There were great
There were great side characters. Zia is she's working with Claire at this like dinosaur protection agency, like activist.
She's a paleo-veterinarian. Yes. And she's smart, and she's funny, and she takes no shit from anyone.
Yeah,
and
she's like a strong character.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And then I'm going to call him Radar. He's in Paper Towns as Radar.
I looked up his name. Franklin, yes.
Because I read your really long
my
post.
Yeah, it was Franklin.
Facebook novels.
Yes.
Yeah, so Radar from Paper Towns is...
He's an intern.
Right.
That, like... he doesn't really like to go out of his comfort zone.
No. And he ends up on Isla
Nublar
with this whole team. And he's like, but the T-Rex is dead, right?
Yeah.
T-Rex has got to be dead, right? And he's just like the biggest chicken shit. And it's so funny.
He plays it so sincere and so like genuine to a guy that's like, I don't want to be in this mess.
Right. Take the internship.
Like, a lot of people are like, we're going to this island, we're going to save the dinosaurs, without giving a second thought to that these dinosaurs could eat you.
Right.
And he is.
He's
and that's
very
amazing.
Aware of that.
And
never loses sight of it.
Yeah. And like, my favorite part of his character. So at one point, they are, Blue gets shot. It's very sad. And they're taking her back to wherever the fuck. Lockwood?
Yeah.
Lockwood Estates or whatever.
Which must be in San Diego.
Yeah, we think it's in San Diego.
Right.
To basically auction these dinosaurs off to rich people, rich fucks that think they can buy shit like this.
Right, to either play with or
make them fight each other or anything of the kind to replicate so they can make more and then make money themselves.
Right. Anyway.
And like there's a scene where they're trying to escape the situation they're in, and like Owen and Claire make it and he doesn't. Radar gets caught by one of the other crew members on the boat, and they're like, here, take this, and throws him like this bull rope and is like, you're coming with me, and he becomes part of the deck crew, and he can't get out of it, so he just goes with him, and we don't see him for a while. And then later in the movie, they get to a point where they're in like this medical lab, and I want to say, do they infect? No, they shoot somebody with something.
Sure.
They're operating on something.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, but I swear it makes sense in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
And they need some anesthetic, and one of the bad guys turns to this lab technician who we see is Radar, and they're like, I need 10 cc's of this, and he's like, okay, and he has no idea what he's doing.
Right.
He kind of just failed his way upward, if you will, to get to this point, and decides he's going to take this anesthetic and shove it into the neck of this bad guy.
Which he does. In the dopest way.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's like, now we can escape and all this other shit. But I would just love a series, maybe even a web series, of how he got to that point. Because he goes from like the lowest point on the crew to being in the fucking lab, and I'd love to see him like showing up in new places with new objects in his hands. Be like, I need you to come with me and grab this, this, and this. And he's like, okay. And then it just cuts to his next mission where he's like, I need you to grab this, this, and this. And it just keeps going up until he's like on a spaceship, like at the helm.
Jurassic Mars.
Yes, I know. That's the other thing. So
which brings us to the end of the movie.
The auction does not go well. They release this prototype dinosaur, which is called the Indoraptor.
Creatively enough.
Which is honestly just a smaller version of the Indominus Rex, but with raptor DNA, which instead of more of the T-Rex DNA, which is kind of a cop-out. That's terrifying. So this is 4th of July week, I guess, because people just fire off fireworks at all hours, and that's scared.
A literal heart
I just
attack.
pooped myself. Yeah. Where was I? So
it's full of shit.
It's a cop-out because the Indominus Rex was designed with raptor DNA. So they're just using that same concept, but making it a little smarter. And it is pretty smart. It can think for itself, sort of, and can be weaponized even more. But like I said, the auction does not go well. And so the whole rest of the movie, they're fighting the Indoraptor.
Right.
And like three or four crates of dinosaurs get released before they can stop it from happening.
Like into the great wide
world from people who bought them and now they're being shipped to them. And like Blue comes in the nick of time, is able to defeat the Indoraptor, and
then she's free.
She's free. And there's a point at the end of the movie where like the bad guy dies and all the dinosaurs... Okay, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
Do we have to rehash the whole movie?
I mean, for our listeners, yeah. I'm almost done. I am.
Okay.
This is the end of the movie. But, so, they get to a point where there's a leak in the building and all the dinosaurs are going to die in their cages, and they have to make a decision whether or not to release the dinosaurs into the wild or let them die. And Owen's like, we're not on an island anymore. This is like playing for keeps, basically. And Claire decides not to release it. And then Maisie, this awesome little girl who's done a lot in the movie, decides to open up all the cages and let them free. And is like, they need to live. Like I'm alive. Which, if you see the movie, it'll make sense to you. But it's a heartwarming moment, and it's making me cry. But
everything makes you cry, huh?
I know, but these are dinosaurs. And like during that scene where they had to make that decision, I was beside myself, being like,
I was beside you.
Yeah, and you are me, so touche. So I'm like, they can't release these dinosaurs into the wild. That'll fuck up everything. But they can't let them die because they're dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. Oh, it's right there in the name.
But they already did that once. We brought them back to life. We did that. Just kidding.
Can you calm down?
I can't calm down.
Shut the fuck out.
No, not when it comes to dinosaurs.
Calm down, horn dog. We're at work.
And so they release the dinosaurs into the wild. The bad guy dies. And Blue looks at Owen. And Owen's like, you can come with me, Blue. It's just subtext. He doesn't say that. And Blue is like... He looks over his shoulder like, no, I can't. I know.
You kept saying he.
I'm sorry. She kept, like, looks over her shoulder and is like, no, I can't be with you. I'll be in a cage. I can't be in a cage. I have to be free.
She says that out loud.
Yeah, she does. And
the dinosaur's talking this one.
She runs into the wild, never to be seen again. And that's it. And now Dr. Ian Malcolm is talking about, like, we cut back to him.
To Jeff Goldblum.
To Jeff Goldblum, yes. For those of you who aren't familiar. He's reprising his role. Yeah. Being like, basically, you can't fix this. Welcome to Jurassic World is how the movie ends.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to all four of those crates on those trucks being, like, distributed out into the world. And people with, like, more DNA vials, like, keeping doing what they're doing. And then Blue is like running through the desert and creeps up onto this like rock face and looks out over this housing development that looks like Southern California or Nevada or something. Utah. And is like, dinosaurs now exist in the food chain. Like, that's it. Dinosaurs are in our world now. And it's really powerful shit. And then there's like a post-credit scene or like a mid-credit scene, where there are these pterodactyls or periodons. I'm not sure which one it is, but they're flying in Vegas.
Yeah.
And they're like perched on top of the Eiffel Tower that's in Vegas. And it's just like a dawning realization.
Welcome to the Jurassic World.
Yeah, and like
it's not just Jurassic Park anymore.
I know. So the island's gone. Even though there are two other islands, but whatever. And so now they live with us. And this goes back to when Jurassic World came out. I created a sequel to Jurassic World that was called Jurassic Wars because of how they were trying to weaponize velociraptors and all that. And Chris Pratt was also in Zero Dark 30, the movie about Osama bin Laden taking down, so like SEAL Team 6. So he had like the war
You gonna rehash that movie too?
No. So he had like that war part on him, so he could be. Okay. It would be like a crossover kind of. But the end of my movie was that the dinosaurs would roam the earth once again, and mine was a little more extra because they got onto a rocket ship. And much I
didn't pull Jurassic Mars out of my own ass.
Yes, and like the rocket ship goes around the world the same way the Universal logo goes around the world. And as the rocket's going off, we see the T-Rex on some platform doing the roar that I love at the end of every movie. And they're in space. And then it's like Jurassic World, because now they're roaming the Earth. Basically how this movie ended, minus space. Right. But mine was more ridiculous because it also involved... Because if you've already done like the Indominus Rex, where we combine all the dinosaurs, next you have to do human DNA and dinosaur DNA and make the Inhumanus Rex and all this other shit. But there was a post-credit scene in my version as well, where the rocket lands on Mars. Everyone's got out safely. They see their new home, which has been led up to this point. And then in the cargo bay, there's like a light flickering, and we hear some scuffles and scutterings. I can't think of the word. Scuttles?
Scuffling.
Scuttles.
Okay.
Scuttling. Like... That's it. Yeah, like that.
Okay.
And then we see a large blue tail, or a tail with a blue stripe on it. And it's one raptor, blue, that's clearly pregnant. I don't know how you see that visually. If it could just be a big belly and you would get that. Or
she's wearing a t-shirt that says bun in the oven.
Bun in the oven. I would buy that.
The t-shirt?
No, that imagery. And there's another raptor with her, and they're just like hiding in the cargo bay, and all of a sudden like she's making these squeaks and like the roars that she does very quietly, and then all of a sudden it's like, where are we? And she says the first words, blackout. And it is a blackout, and then it says Jurassic Mars 2020, and that's the next movie, and it would be absolutely amazing.
I think that's a couple down the line still.
I wish it wasn't. I think that is such a cool way, because it's also sort of like Planet of the Apes, where the apes start talking and like taking over the world. The next step is to have the dinosaurs start speaking, which they sort of did in a dream sequence in Jurassic Park 3, which you didn't see. No. Dr. Alan Grant is having like flashbacks, and he turns. Fine. This is one of our shorter episodes.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's an hour and 21 minutes.
And that's fine.
That is not one of our shorter episodes.
It actually is. We've gone for almost 2 hours once.
We were intentionally doing a double episode. Next.
I'm not talking about that episode.
It's great. I'm done.
Fine. Go see Jurassic World.
And Incredibles 2.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
That's all we got. Well, that's all I got.
Yeah.
You can keep going for another 3 hours if you want to.
It's
just
fine.
Rehash every movie ever made.
It's fine. So thank you for listening to this episode of Why Did Not You Warn Me? I've been your host, Matthew TheDoctorDanko.
And I'm Hillary Crum, who's here as well.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
Once the show ends, please don't shed those tears. We'll come back again, so have no fear. Oh, we told you that it just might end up this way. What's the show called again? You cannot be saying, why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me now? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you warn me